Bills Mafia, what is going on? It's Thursday. You know what that means. We're going to talk all about the NFL draft. We're going to talk about Josh Allen. Does he want a wide receiver? And a little bit more in between. Let's get it. Bills Mafia, what is going on? Welcome. It's opening day of the Major League Baseball year. Not that matters with us, but it matters with me because the New York Yankees just won. But hey, welcome to Buffalo Late Night here on the Cover One Sports Network. I am incredibly glad that you have chosen to hang out with us evening, and a lot to talk about tonight. I have my brother playing the audio behind here. I don't know why there's audio playing behind. Ian, you're playing audio behind me. Hold on one second, folks. I don't know what is going on. There is audio playing in behind. Oh, there it is. Okay. Apologies. I don't know what just happened there. We are absolutely going forward. Needless to say, welcome to Buffalo Late Night tonight. I apologize. That was a little discombobulation. Buffalo Primetime. Roy Collins has always got it right. Guys, welcome again to the show. I am your host, Thomas DeLoss, and glad that you've chosen to hang out with us tonight. Thank you for tuning in, or if you're listening on Spotify, happy Friday to you. You can find our show free on all social media and streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube, or however you choose to pod. If you are watching on Twitter right now, feel free to hop on over to our YouTube page. You can comment on the conversation, and if you want your voice to be heard, go ahead. You can hit that super chat. They're open for this and every Cover One show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page and our notification page or notification button. It'll let you know every single time one of the Cover One shows is live. Now, guys, we are deep in the thick of the postseason, so make sure that you are subscribed to the Cover One Pass. It is absolutely the best place to get the best coverage and analysis heading into the 2023 season. Obviously, you get this show right here. You get the Cover One Buffalo show. You get it all. You get everything, kit and caboodle, including the Slack channel. So make sure you subscribe to that. And we have some pretty cool giveaways going on right now that if you sign up to the Cover One Pass, you could win a Josh Allen signed jersey. You can win a PS5. There is tons of stuff. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that as well. Make sure you go ahead and hit me with a follow on Twitter at the Thomas DeLoss right there. I am giving away 2 tickets to the Buffalo Bills home opener once I hit 10,000 followers on Twitter. So make sure you're hitting that follow, and you'll be in for those tickets. That being said, guys, I am incredibly happy that you've chosen to be with us tonight. We have a lot to talk about. Like I said at the start of the show, we are going to be talking about Josh Allen, and does he want a new receiver? We'll get into it. We will talk about the Buffalo Bills' new stadium. There's been a lot of chirping in regards to the pricing and how that all shakes out. So we'll get into that. We're going to obviously have our weekly mock draft. You know how we do it. We're going to break that all down, and I want to hear from all of you. And then we will be moving forward. So that being said, I appreciate you guys hanging in there with the beginning there. That was a little goofy, and I don't know why there was a random video playing. I thought, whatever. It happens. Just like the Yankees, how they started the game. You start slow, but you finish hot, and you pick up that victory, and the Yankees win. But hey, let's move on. Let's talk about everything that we got going on tonight. But before we do that, man, I just feel that I would be doing myself an injustice if I didn't let 2 of the best in the game tell you about the Cover One Pass. So, Greg, Aaron, why don't you guys take it away?
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
There you have it, guys. That is Aaron. That is Greg from the Cover One Buffalo podcast. If you watched last night, you actually saw they had Dan and John from the Cover One Draft Weekly. Fantastic draft they had last night. A lot of fun. Really broke it down, got into the weeds about kind of what to expect, what not to expect. And if you haven't watched that yet, make sure after this show, not during, after, make sure you give that one a listen. They did a really nice job. But moving forward, guys, let's start right off with the stadium conversation because, man, it seems it's been quite a hot button, just point of contention that people are talking about pricing with the new stadium, how that's going to shake out. And if you have questions, feel free to throw them into the chat. If you're watching and you want to join the conversation, come head over to our YouTube page. I'll answer as many questions as I can. I do have a little bit of information in regards to it. I've done my digging or my due diligence and my digging in regards to that. But kind of what I want to talk about in regards to this is there is obviously some kind of just rampant information that's being spread around. And inherently, I want to say the problem with it is it's not information. It's a lot of hearsay, rumors, and a lot of it's just not true. So there's a lot of stuff being talked about, I mean, with pricing, right? And we know for a fact that with the new stadium, the pricing was always going to be more. I don't think that is up for discussion. I think that's fairly obvious, pretty consistent across the board. But right now, the way that they're doing things, per the people that are working at the new stadium experience, my personal ticket representative, which if you don't know, I am a season ticket holder. That's irrelevant. I'm just telling you because I've had conversations for that purpose. So they are working from the middle out. So they're working clubs and suites right now from the 50, working their way out, right? So from the 40, 30, 20, 10, all the way out to the end zones. Then 100-yard or the hundreds, the 200s and 300s, right? That's going to be the order in which they're doing it. Perfect. That's fine. The problem is people are taking what information they've heard in regards to the pricing of the suites and the clubs and using that as a way to parallel into the new stadium or into the new seats in their own section. Presently, as of this very moment, there has been no pricing that has been laid out for anything else except for what they've done. They are still finalizing the pricing on some of these sections. They are still finalizing some of the pricing on the PSLs. So I want fans to understand that there's going to be a lot of people that out there are going to be spewing information and kind of talking about the pricing that they think might happen. And I understand the fear. I understand that people are probably inherently going to be a bit shell-shocked, sticker shock, fearful, losing their tickets. They've had them for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, some from the very, very beginning when the stadium opened. I get it. I understand the sentiment. I level with you. But let it happen first before you immediately react upon something because we don't know the facts. We only know what's been told about one specific area, which the suite and the clubs were always going to be the most expensive, period, point blank. So that's one thing. In regards to a couple other things, people have said that you can't get single tickets. You can absolutely get singles when it comes to the new stadium. People said that you can't get aisle seats or four in the aisle or four towards the aisle. That's not true. You can. They've talked about if you decide. So the way that they're doing it is wherever you're sitting in the current stadium, that's where your seats are going to be offered to you in the new stadium, right? It's going to be comparable seats. Obviously, the price isn't going to be the same, but they're going to be comparable in terms of where you're sitting, the equivalent seat. If you don't like the pricing on that, they're going to come back to you when they have something that works price-wise alongside of the seat that you want, right? So they're going to find something that works. It doesn't mean you go to the end. In fact, what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a lot of people that are probably not going to get seats in their own section because they don't want to sit there. They like a different seat. They want a different price. There's going to be a variety of different reasons why things are going to happen. So it's one of those, they're going to, once they get to the next section, they're going to work their way through people who were leftovers from the last grouping and then work through them and then work through the people that are in those seats. But the way I've been telling people, because people are having a hard time wrapping their minds around, and I get emotion takes over, losing your seats take over. But the way the way I'm kind of explaining it is, in the current stadium, even if you had number one seniority, right? If you were the most tenured season ticket holder, you could not say to somebody else, because you don't want your, like, let's say all of a sudden you fell on hard times, you couldn't pay for your 50-yard line seats, so you needed something else. You couldn't go to the guy who has, row one seat, the 50-yard line in the 300s because those are cheaper and say, I'm taking his seats because I've had seats longer. That's not how that works. The only thing you'd be able to do is you'd be able to look at what's available when relocation came around, which you'd be the first in line, and pick that point, right? That would be your allotment of what was available. So it's the same sentiment when it comes to the new stadium. You're not allowed to jump somebody and take their seats. Everybody, when it comes to the new stadium, will get their 1-for-1 equivalent seat in their new stadium at first pass. After that, once they have whatever seats were not chosen or whatever seats were declined, whatever happened, then at that point, you will get your chance at the first. Whoever's the first in line in terms of seniority will get their chance to snake up whatever seats they want. So understand that the reason they're doing it this way is, I understand people say, well, it should be number one seniority gets to pick whatever seat they want in the house. That's the fairest, I guess. But in a certain world, that's fair to only that person. That's not fair to everybody else who has been season ticket holders for whatever amount of time, right? Like, I have like 5 years of seniority. Somebody else might have 15 years of seniority. Somebody else might have 40. So the person who has 15, it's not fair to them. They didn't get to choose when they got their tickets, right? Like, if they were 18 when they got them and that was the time they could get them, why does somebody, because they've been around and they're 50 or 60 years old, because they're older, get to usurp somebody that's younger? So they're trying to do things to be as fair as humanly possible to all across the board. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts and pieces. They're still working on pricing in the new stadium, but understand, people have this weird feeling that the Bills, the Pagulas or whoever's in charge of the stadium experience or whoever's in charge of the processing and the tickets and the dollar amounts, nobody's out to get anybody. This is not a gotcha experience. This is not a let's wait for the other shoe to drop. This is they're doing the best they can. And when they say best for Buffalo, built for Buffalo, that's literally pricing included, truly. So take a breath. We'll get there. Don't be upset about it. It will happen, but understand that this is a work in progress. Moving forward, though, and let's get past the stadium stuff right now. What we're going to talk about before we get into the main nitty gritty is I'm going to talk about Underdog Fantasy. It is our sponsor here at Cover One. By the way, cheers. Let's go Buffalo. Cover One is excited to once again partner with the most dynamic name in fantasy football, that is Underdog Fantasy. I want to tell you about the easiest way to get some action in the NFL. It's Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and take home some cold, hard cash. Use the code COVER1 and get your first deposit doubled up to $200 by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. And not only do they have the NFL, but with today and the start of Major League Baseball, they've got MLB, NBA, and more. Get in on the fun today. Join Underdog Fantasy using code COVER1. So there we are, guys. That is Underdog Fantasy, and let's get right into it. Let's get into what we're talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft. We're going to be talking about everything that kind of happened and in between, what we're looking at. Obviously, you saw some signings that happened. We had Austin Johnson signed from the San Diego Chargers, defensive tackle. You saw Daquan Jones was the one that announced that one. That was a very, very big signing. I think a guy that for the Buffalo Bills was important because it was a guy that I think really, solidifies that back end in terms of making sure they have enough of what they need. That's big time right there. On top of that, you've got, just the ability for the Buffalo Bills to have another potent, very, very talented defensive lineman. I think that's going to be a good piece right there. The other part to that is that allows Josh Allen to talk about wanting a wide receiver. So Josh Allen was on had an interview with Jordan Palmer and Kyle Allen. So we're going to go ahead and listen to what Josh Allen said about wide receivers in the draft.
Guys, I know you always look at draft receivers. Who's a couple guys you love coming out in the draft this year?
Receiver-wise?
Yeah, receivers. Where you're picking late, right? 28,
yeah,
29.
Can I not like the guys that probably won't be there?
You can like them.
Yeah, I think the top three guys, Malik Neighbors, Rumbo Duns, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are all three pretty great prospects. Then you get to that kind of second-ish tier, if you will, of Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell. I think Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy are all there. Xavier Legette, did you guys hear him talk?
No. What is it?
He's got the biggest Southern draw I've ever heard in my entire life. It is. He seems like.
I love it.
I'll tell you what. To watch these guys at the combine, some big, fast, big, tall, heavy, fast dudes. It was pretty impressive to watch. So.
Is Josh Allen talking about the NFL draft? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what Josh Allen just said right there. Josh Allen, interestingly enough, knew all the wide receivers that we've been talking about. And in fact, really knew Xavier Legette. I thought that was very interesting. I think what does it tell you about Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen is absolutely clued in to what is going on with the Buffalo Bills right now. Josh Allen absolutely knows that there is a litany of good receivers that the Bills are going to be keeping an eye on. And you have to wonder, has Josh Allen been made privy to who maybe the Buffalo Bills are looking at? Is Josh Allen maybe brought into the conversation? Because you would have to think, right, with your $258 million star quarterback, that maybe, just maybe, Brandon Beane and Joe Brady and Sean McDermott brought Josh Allen into the conversation and said, hey, what do you think? What would make your job easier? Because we know Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, those three are going to be monster pieces. The addition of Curtis Samuel. I mean, Josh Allen talked about Curtis Samuel in that same interview. Very, very excited about utilizing him in this offense. You obviously got Mac Hollins that's brought in here. Maybe KJ Hamler, depending on his pericarditis. Maybe he can make some noise. But I'm very intrigued with Josh knowing those receivers and wanting those receivers, because I think there's something very intriguing. Why have I not taken Juan Soto in the first round of your mock drafts? Joe, I think your internet connection is bad. You've decided to mix up baseball and football. You might want to what do they say with technology? You unplug it, turn it off, and turn it back on. Maybe try that. I mean, I don't know. Juan Soto is fantastic. I would take him at every team, but we'll see. He's worth $800 million, though. Stupid. Side note, Mike, I apologize for ignoring you. How do you feel about Troy Franklin or Jalen Polk at 28 or in a trade down? I don't think Jalen Polk. I like Jalen Polk, right? Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. Those are your two, behind Roma Dunze receivers in Washington, both very talented. I like Jalen Polk. I think Jalen Polk actually, to be honest with you, is underrated in terms of what he can do in the second level. His speed, his size, his hands. I mean, he's very, very talented. So Troy Franklin, if anybody knows and anybody watched my show for months and months now, I have had an affinity for Troy Franklin. In fact, I had the host of Locked On Ducks to talk about Troy Franklin. So I love me some Troy Franklin. He didn't do great in the pro day, but I mean, whatever. That speed is undeniable, right? Troy Franklin is fast. And he's not as tall. He's like 6'1 and a half, almost 6'2". But, you know, I think he'd be a dynamic weapon. Take him at 28. So before I get further into the Josh Allen conversation, let me say this. And I've said this before, but for anybody who's watching and you're watching now, it's fine. But let me say this. When it comes to 28, okay, and I'm going to sidestep with this too. If you think there's a wide receiver at 28 that you like, that let's say maybe you have him ranked as your 38th best player, I am willing to take somebody at 28 if you have him ranked at 38 because of a couple things. One, from 28 to 60, you are going to see every wide receiver that you like go. It's just going to happen. Whether it's Jalen Polk, Troy Franklin, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall, Javon Baker, you name it, they're going to go, right? I mean, you can go down the list. Malachi Corley, Roman Wilson, Jacob Cowing. Like, there's going to be a ton of guys. Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey. There's going to be a litany of receivers from 28 to 60. They're going to go. So, if you like a receiver, if you like him enough, it doesn't bother me if you want to take him at 28. Because I would much prefer, say, take the guy and risk not losing him over not taking him, trading back and saying, we can maybe get him a few picks later. Because you know what? Let me say this, and I'm going to bring this up because I don't know why I didn't have this. Hold on one sec. 1 second for me, folks. I apologize. So the NFL draft order, right? When you're looking at who's taking picks behind the Buffalo Bills, you've got Detroit. I apologize. That was really gross. My son has made me very congested, so I apologize. Could have been much more discreet with that. Detroit, Baltimore, San Francisco, Kansas City. I could see Detroit taking a receiver. Baltimore absolutely could take a receiver. San Francisco, I don't think they would, but you never really know. Kyle Shanahan's an absolute freak. Kansas City, needs a wide receiver. Whether they take one in the first round or not is dependable. Carolina, 100% needs a receiver. Washington, who knows? New England needs a receiver. Arizona, depending on what they do in the first round, could use a receiver. And then it goes on and on and on and on, right? Depending on how far back you trade, there are plenty of teams that will take some. Josh better at throwing smoke screens. He knows Bean won't pick a receiver in the first. I don't know. So back to what I was saying, and we'll get back to that in a second. I think I think in regards to what I was saying, right? If there is a guy that you like in the first round with receiver, take him. Because you're going to lose him if you don't, period. And that fifth-year option for a wide receiver, whether, we listened to Matt Harmon talk a couple weeks ago about this, or was it last? I don't remember. Last week, recently. I think it was last week. my whole weeks are all skewed up. Matt Harmon said himself that guys don't want to play in that fifth-year option, right? Guys want to play 3 years. Brandon Ayuk is throwing a fit. But you're seeing what's happening with T. Higgins. T. Higgins now, they literally have to go ahead and franchise tag him because they don't have that fifth year. They had the fifth year, they could keep him this year and then maybe tag him next year, which gives them leeway until they have to pay Jamar Chase. That fifth-year option for wide receiver is invaluable, especially nowadays. I mean, we still Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk whenever he gets paid. There are a ton of guys that are about to get paid. Having that fifth-year option gives you it keeps you cost controlled for those 5 years, but it gives you leg and wiggle room to give him an extension on that contract. So in terms of that, I don't care if they take a guy that's a little bit out of their range. First off, because Brandon Beane can always justify it. Brandon Beane can always say, oh, he was one of my last first round players. Who cares? The other side of that is, let's think about this, right? Because first round picks, Brandon Beane's words almost verbatim, are guys that he wants to step in and pretty much be day one contributors. Defensive tackle is not going to be a day one starter, right? He's going to be a backup to Ed Oliver. And especially now when we signed Deshaun Williams and we signed Austin Johnson, you already have Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver. You're not going to have these defensive tackles in the first round, whether it's Johnny Newton, whether it's why am I blanking on the other one? I'm sorry. Byron Murphy, Braden Fisk, if he moves into the first because he had a great combine. Those guys are not going to start unless they beat out Ed Oliver, which God bless him if that happens. Now you got more of a conundrum on your hands, which is a positive. But I don't suspect they get a defensive tackle unless there's a defensive tackle that they truly believe is transcendent. But Brandon Beane was on Pat McAfee's show and said verbatim, there is not a DeMarcus Lawrence. There is not a Quinnen Williams or an you name it, one of the number one defensive tackles. They're more so in the second and third and fourth round. That's the sweet spot. So I don't suspect they would take one there. So in regards to that, I think if you're looking at thought process, right? I think a safety could make sense, but the only one I think is Tyler Nubin. And I love Tyler Nubin, but if you really like Tyler Nubin, I think you trade out of the first and get him in the second. But again, the numbers on a first. So here's the thing. This is where the contract numbers with some of these positions don't align with a first round grade. And align with where they've taken a safety for that matter, right? The Brandon Beane hasn't taken a safety. They've gotten Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, which obviously that kind of skews the statistics because you've had two starters for 7 years, but they don't need to take one because of the value base, right? The cost of a safety you saw on the free agent market is diluted by a ton. So taking one in the first round doesn't make a lot of sense. I think it comes down to maybe center, like a Jackson Powers Johnson. I think a defensive end, like a Latu if he falls into your lap, or a wide receiver. I think those are your sweet spots, to be honest with you. That's why when I say wide receiver, if you're talking about like wide receiver can come right in day one and start, period. If you get let's say 28 comes around and I've been really high on Xavier Legette. Obviously, I love Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not softening on Brian Thomas Jr. I love Brian Thomas Jr. But I love me some Xavier Legette. I've been watching his tape a lot. I've been really brushing up on him. And let's say they like Xavier Legette, which Josh Allen himself said he likes Xavier's voice. So obviously he's been just kind of keeping an eye on him, right? You can have a guy come in and they could have Stephon Diggs as your Y or your Z and Xavier Legette as your X, and then your slot or you go 4 wide or 5 wide, you got Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and then your 2 wide receivers with, be it Xavier Legette and Stephon Diggs or Brian Thomas Jr. and Stephon Diggs. However that shakes out. But those are immediate starters, and wide receivers are always starters. And especially nowadays with the way they're running, defenses. I mean, you saw with the hip drop rule, they are trying to promote offense. So in that same breath, getting an offensive weapon is going to be beneficial to the Buffalo Bills, period. It just is. So that's why when you talk about, who you take in the first round, a wide receiver truly, I think, makes the most sense outside of defensive end and offensive tackle or offensive lineman. And I really wonder about what they feel about offensive line because they haven't taken in a center, right? They had Mitch Morse they got from Kansas City. And they've taken, they took Osiris Torrance. They took him in the second round. So do they believe they could shore it up? I don't know how they feel. Do they think they're good with David Edwards and Connor McGovern? I don't know. Jackson Powers Johnson is very, very talented. So it'd be a plug and play day one starter. And then you put Connor McGovern back, and then David Edwards is kind of your Ryan Bates-esque player of off the bench, number 6 utility lineman. So that's a potential option right there. In terms of defensive end, I wonder what they're going to do there. And the tough part is I I don't think unless the board falls very dramatically, I don't think there's a defensive end unless it's a Chop Robinson or a Darius Robinson. And I still don't know if that's like those Chop Robinson and Darius Robinson are very high upside, very, high ceiling guys. You don't know what they're going to be. They're very raw, right? Which is fine, but where the Bills are right now with the necessities they have on this team, I don't know if taking another raw, toolsy, super athletic, high RAS score player would be the idea in this moment. I could see them doing it, but I feel like getting a bona fide day one step in, plug and play player for the Bills in this moment is so much more impactful and something that the Bills would utilize. I just don't see them going that way. I'm going to go back and check some of these comments. I apologize. I'm not ignoring you guys. Best player available at defensive end, defensive tackle, safety, wide receiver for that pick. I'm fine with that at the first pick. I don't know about defensive tackle or safety, but the other two I'm fine, including obviously with offensive offensive guard, right tackle, center, anything of that nature. Even the right tackle, I don't really like. I think Josh is pointing out the obvious because Bean isn't going to tell the players who they want to take. I don't know. I think maybe for most of the team that's the case, but I feel like Josh Allen is part of that conversation. Josh Allen isn't your run-of-the-mill, that Patrick Mahomes is in the conversation with Brett Veach and their entire staff. Josh Allen, I think, is part of that. Josh Allen is not a talker, which, side note, I gotta air some grievances, folks. I sat and really defended Josh because I love Josh Allen and I do it quite often. There has been a swath of people who sat there and said Josh Allen didn't train in the offseason. And isn't it just so apropos? Isn't it just so poetic that Jordan Palmer said in an interview with Josh Allen and Kyle Allen that they just threw with Josh Allen in the offseason last year? So I love all the people that sat there and threw stones at Josh Allen to go eat crow, because Josh Allen does train. The difference is Josh Allen doesn't talk. The only time Josh Allen is ever in the media is because of his girlfriend or because somebody talks about him. Josh Allen is a quiet, introverted, to himself person who doesn't go out in the media, is not that type of person, doesn't put out his what he does, his accolades, anything like that. So he didn't talk about the fact that he worked out in this offseason. So people automatically made some goofy assumptions that Josh Allen doesn't train. Well, guess what? He absolutely unequivocally does. So eat it. Josh Allen is the quarterback. He is the man. He has been training, but he's been doing it the right way because guess what? He had a shoulder injury last year and he had a UCL injury the year before. He was training the way he could to protect his injury and to make sure he was ready day one. Moving forward, like I was saying about what Josh Allen doesn't talk about that stuff, I don't suspect Josh Allen would be sorry, I got very, very emotional right there. I don't like when people put stuff out into the atmosphere about players that they don't know anything about. Needless to say, I get very, if you ever hear me talk, by the way, if you ever hear my voice, I know I might sound angry. I am an Italian through and through. My grandfather, full-blooded, 100% Italian, God rest his soul. We all sound like we're mad, but we're just very animated. So cheers, salute to my grandfather. I love you. And salute to my grandfather who passed away just over a year ago today. What a great day to get a Yankees win. He was a diehard Yankees fan. In fact, one of my favorite possessions, I've never showed this on the show before, but my grandfather, one of my prized possessions, this is a 1953 signed Yankees team ball with Mickey Mantle, Casey Stengel, has the whole team on here. My favorite possession. My grandfather was my absolute best friend. I love him to death. Miss him dearly. But yes, so if you hear my voice, I sometimes sound very angry. I'm just very animated in Italian. So there we are. Moving forward, folks. Josh Allen doesn't talk, so I suspect he's probably in the conversations to some degree in terms of what he wants, what he thinks, what he sees, maybe a player that he thinks will work best. Because you have to understand, you want a guy that Josh is going to feel comfortable playing with, period. That's it. Josh wants somebody in-house that he is going to respect and going to throw to. So I appreciate that, my friend. Paisan. Hey, I appreciate that respect. But yes, so I think it's very interesting that Josh Allen said that, but let's continue on here to some of your comments. I apologize. I like to get you guys involved, which, side note, I do this every single week. Paul Hansen, Aiden, Mike, Mass, Jeffrey, Joe, Jeff, Michael Stover, Ralph Wilson Sr., Preston Hartfield, Jeff Bonino, Mike Black, Jeffrey Darrow, Preston Heinfield, RJ, Jason Jeffords, Sale DW. Who else we got in here tonight? See if everybody. Charles G. and S. Mazuka. Guys, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Buffalo Late Night. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on the show tonight. Definitely do appreciate it. And one thing I do want to say is make sure you go ahead and share this. If you enjoy my show, which I greatly do appreciate if you do and you guys are here, tell somebody about it. Share it with them. Send them a link and tell them, Daniel, what's going on, brother? Tell them about my show. It means the world to me. It is our lifeblood. Telling people that, Buffalo Late Night exists and all the shows here on Cover One. So I do appreciate it. You guys mean the world to me. It makes me want to keep doing this every single week. And even when I'm tired, I'm still popping up and doing this stuff. So I appreciate that. How am I feeling about the Yankees win today? It wasn't the prettiest start, but it's all about the finish, right? At the end of the day, when you're beating our arch nemesis, a team that has been the bane of our existence, the thorn on our side, the Houston Astros, if you can beat them that way, beating them 5-4 in a technical fashion, not a home run fashion, that's a great win. Great win for the Yankees. I think it is Juan Soto. Holy shit. Talk about being worth the money. If I'm Cashman, I'm saying, take out a pen and paper and whatever number, write it down and it's yours. I don't care. I'm making Juan Soto. If Juan Soto wants to be the highest paid player in baseball over Shohei Ohtani, Gucci. I'm good with it. Pay him. I don't care. What he did today in one game, if you get that out of 162 games of him, that is the difference. I mean, look at what he did. One game. But we'll move on. Not everybody's Yankees fans, and I don't want people to turn off the show because I'm talking about the New York Yankees. Let's move on about the Buffalo Bills. I do think there is some interesting stuff, and let's kind of get into the NFL draft and kind of how things are shaking out, what we think about this. So in regards to the wide receiver position, I do very much think that at number one, like I said with Josh talking about it, I think it's in the topic of conversation of the Bills could absolutely attack wide receiver. I think the Bills absolutely could go after it and say, you know what? We missed out on beating the Chiefs because we had injuries, right? We had injuries in that wide receiver core. Gabe Davis was injured. Stephon Diggs was 100% injured. You could definitely tell he wasn't himself. And then after that, you were down to Trent Sherfield. Big issue there, right? You cannot have that type of drop off, right? You need a really nice linear direction of talent. And I think that's where if you get more guys, I don't care. You know what? I don't care. Like people saying like, does Josh have too much? Why does Josh need that much? I don't care. I don't care how much you give Josh. I've said this before. I probably say it every week. I don't care. If you want to force feed Josh all the weapons, if it wins the Super Bowl, I don't care. I will not be disgruntled. Nobody will care in 10 years about who or how many receivers the Buffalo Bills had if they have a championship. It won't matter. You win a championship, that goes down from, in the history and the lore and everything that it is. What do I think about Xavier Worthy? I think Xavier Worthy is an interesting name. We don't have that type of speed, right? I mean, we've got Khalil Shakir. You've got Curtis Samuel. Both are really speedy guys. Xavier Worthy is otherworldly. That type of speed, 4.20, just dirty speed. I mean, stuff that you don't see prototypically in the NFL. I think it'd be something that would be worth the Bills' time. And maybe, just maybe, that's the type, the one thing about Brandon Beane is he says just enough, but he doesn't say everything. And he also gives you what you want to hear. And he gives the media what they want to hear, gives them a little bit to chew on, but really doesn't tell them much. And like Brandon Beane said in his interview on the Pat McAfee show, there is only a very few people that know exactly what's going to happen with the Buffalo Bills. Just a few. So what he's saying in the media and what the truth is, maybe somewhere in between, there's a grain or a morsel of truth in that. But I would probably lean on the side of it's probably closer to factual or just in fact. What am I trying to say? I'm putting words together. I believe there's more likely it's not factual what he's feeding you out there. Period. I think it's more likely he's kind of giving you a line than anything else. If I'm guessing. So I think that's tough. But you know what? We are at 40. Holy cow, we're at 40 minutes into the show. We are really cruising here. Let's get right into this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the mock draft. We'll talk about the mock draft while we're doing this stuff. And kind of go through what we're talking about here, what we think. Obviously, we will do trades if a trade comes into play, right? If we think there's something that works to our benefit, we'll do that. And if you guys are new here to Buffalo Late Night, I do a mock draft. We'll do one all the way up until the NFL draft. And potentially, we're still waiting on everything to be finalized, but a couple of us, Joe DeRosa, John Helmkamp, myself, Greg Tomset, a bunch of us will be at the NFL draft. So that'd be really, really nice. But in regards to this, we're gonna do this like we are Brandon Beane, right? We're gonna do this not in the fandom side. We're gonna do this what we think, right? What's gonna help the team the best? Impact starters, like we talked about, using Brandon Beane's kind of ideology as to what's going to impact the Buffalo Bills, what's going to help them win a Super Bowl, play time, just overall talent, how they kind of jive, personality-wise, all that stuff in between. So let's go ahead. We're going to enter the draft room right now, choosing the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to see how this all shakes out, right? So we'll pause it if we get to pick 10, pick 15, see where things are. So right now, we are just about to pick 10, and there we are. We have got Caleb Williams going number 1 to Chicago, Drake May, Joe Alt to the Patriots. That's a nice little building block for them. I like that. Malik Neighbors going to the Cardinals. Marvin Harrison Jr. falling all the way to 3 to the Chargers. Man, talk about just absolute lap of luxury. Jaden Daniels to the Giants. Dallas Turner, Quinion Mitchell to the Falcons. Terrion Arnold to the Chicago Bears, and Brock Bowers to the Jets. So we are here. Obviously, the Vikings are not going to trade out. You know they need a quarterback. So let's go ahead and resume it. We'll go a few more down. See where we're at. Get to 15. We are now at 15. We have seen Talise Fuaga go to the Vikings. They took a tackle there. So you have to think that maybe, just maybe, they're probably going to take a quarterback at 23. So if we're going to trade up, it's going to have to be between 16 and 22 or after that. But let's keep it riding. Let's see what people think. And guys, in the chat, what I want you guys to do is tell me what you guys think. Do you guys think the Bills should go ahead to trade up in the draft? Or do you guys think and say, you know what, let's wait to 28, see what falls in our lap, and then go from there. If you think we should trade up, type number 1. If you think that we should stay put, type number 2 in the chat for me. I'm going to wait 1 second for you guys to put all your answers in the chat. Let me know what you guys think in regards to all that. By the way, again, guys, I appreciate you tuning in tonight, Buffalo Late Night. Make sure you go ahead and hit me with a follow over not only on my Twitter at the Thomas DeLoss right here, if you haven't already. But the other thing is, if you haven't already, and if Ian wants to put it in the chat, go ahead and hit me with a follow or subscribe for Buffalo Late Night over on our Spotify page. I'd really, really appreciate that. Make sure show some support to our Spotify. Okay, let's stay put. We're gonna go to 28. Ride it out all the way to 28. I like it. I like what you guys are thinking right there, and see what you guys think. This is a very strange draft. Roma Dunze fell all the way to 23 to the Vikings. I don't suspect that happens, which makes these drafts very, very strange. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look and see what's in front of us here. So we've got Jerzon Newton, Johnny Newton, right there, 28. We got Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, a very interesting left and right tackle option. Tyler Newman, the pretty much the all-time best safety out of Minnesota. I think he's usurped Antoine Winfield Jr. there. And then let's take a look at the wide receivers. Let's see what wide receivers we have available to us here. Let's see. Going to go to wide receiver. What's available? We have got Troy Franklin, Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Jermaine Burton, Keon Coleman, Jalen Polk, Xavier Legette. So definitely some interesting options. Defensive end, let's see what we got here in edge. You got Chris Broswell, Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Adisa Isaac, all the normal guys that you thought were going to be there. Let's see at defensive tackle what we've got available to us. We have Jerzon Newton, Braden Fisk. So Jerzon Newton is really the only guy. I mean, Braden Fisk maybe, but I would more so trade back. Let's see what trade options we have available to us here. We have the Colts, the Giants, the Bengals, and the Bears. Let's see what the Giants, the Colts. The Colts have 46 and 82. If we traded them 28, we could get 46 and 82. 82 being kind of just outside or just inside of the third round, right? Tail end of the third. So that's nice. I do like that. Let's see what else we got. What does the Giants have? Giants have 47 and 70. Could we get 47 and 70? We could. If we trade from 28 to 47, we would also get 70. That would be real nice. So we would have 47, 60, and 70. What do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts in regards to potentially loading up? We dropped 19 spots. So it definitely would be tough. You'd lose that first round grade. And like I said in the beginning, if you want a receiver, maybe you do it, right? You obviously lose on Jackson Powers Johnson. So that's definitely a question mark there. But you gain that extra, pick 70, which is huge. So that's definitely an option. Obviously, we have Jerzon Newton, Johnny Newton. I think that's definitely a quality add-on at defensive tackle, but I don't know if they'd go that way. I mean, I think if he fell in their lap, I think they'd be hard-pressed not to. But the problem is, again, do they take a defensive tackle that's not going to... I mean, how much time is Johnny Newton really going to play, right? Let me bring something up real quick. I want to take a look at something. I'm really intrigued as to what the belief is, because I just don't know if you would have Brandon Beane be willing to take a defensive tackle at number 28 because of the fact that you already have your two main guys. And to be honest with you, as much as I like Johnny Newton, I feel like I would much prefer taking a Dwayne Carter in the second or the third, right? Maybe get a Braden Fisk later on. That's my problem right there. And maybe, just maybe, if you go down to 47, can you get a Braden Fisk at 47? And then at 70, maybe you can trade up. Maybe you trade, one of your later picks in 60 and try to get higher. See, here's the thing. Maybe we take that. We could try this. Let me pose it to this way, guys. Let me ask you this. If we trade back to 47, we have 47, 60, and 70. What if we take 60 and package it with maybe 133 and move up into the top of the second round or middle of the second round? I think that's a potential option right there. And then you're getting potentially two impact players at 47 and where we kind of fall in that range. I think that's an option. Then you're giving yourself multiple high-end players. I think Newton could play alongside Ed, right? That's a potential. I just think the impact day one, like get him on the field. I want a player that's absolutely going to start. And you just paid Daquan Jones. Are you going to also go ahead and put Daquan on the sidelines to play Newton? I don't understand that, to be honest with you. I like Jackson Powers Johnson, but I also don't necessarily really like the idea of taking a center in the first round. I know he'll be there for a long time, but understand this. Let's talk about the dollars for cents, right? The cost of a center in the first round is not aligned with that fifth-year option. That's my issue. So that's my concern right there. Or maybe do we just say, you know what? Do we take one of the wide receivers we like? Do you like Xavier Legette's ranked 63? Or maybe we can get him later. Can we get him in the second round? Can we get him at 60? Or trade up a little bit? What do you guys think? You guys tell me what you want to do. But I need you to type it in the chat right now so we can do it immediately. Do we take Jackson Powers Johnson? Do we take Jazir Newton or Johnny Newton? Do we trade back? I think if I'm going to take anything in this first round, I do like Jackson Powers Johnson. I think that's a good move. I think that solidifies things. I think the other option is a trade back. I think that's a good situation. I really like the idea of trading with the Giants. Jackson Powers Johnson, Newton, Legette gone before 60. Take the Giants trade. See, I like the Giants trade. Like if we took these two, right? And I almost wonder, they might actually give you 47, 70, and 141. If we do that, let me just say this, folks. What if we do this? 47, 70, and 141, you take 28, right? What if we were to package a couple picks, right? Maybe 133, 144, or 133, 141, and 70, and move up. I think you could get that and a pick at 47, and you'd still have 60. I think that's a quality move right there. You get three banger of starters, three very, very impact players, all within a short period. Let's do it. Let's offer this trade. Trade accepted. So we got, for 28, we got 47, 70, and 141 from the New York Giants, which is entirely possible considering the Bills have a relationship with Joe Shane. I like that right there. So let's go ahead. We're going to resume the draft, okay? And let's take a look. We're going to try to aim for like the top of the third, okay? And see where we're at. Jackson Powers Johnson just went to the Patriots. So let's go ahead. Let's see if we can trade to 35. Let's try that, and that for 35. They would not accept that. What about 60? No. Okay. We might have to be a little creative here. So they're not going to take those. They would only take 47. So they're not going to drop out of that. Let's go ahead and resume the draft. We'll go a little bit further down, maybe to 40. We're at 40 here. Let's try to see what we could do here. See if we can get a nice little package together. They are not going to take any of that stuff. No, none of these trades. Well, they're definitely not do that. Wow. These teams are very, very stingy with what they're going to trade. You might just be stuck with this right now. But maybe we could take and move up to the back end of this. We might just have to go to 47. Because if you look and see what's available right now, obviously you've had Tyler Nubin go, Jackson Powers Johnson, Chop Robinson, Troy Franklin, Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman. Maybe we get Xavier Legette. We'll see what options are available in terms of players. Let's get to 47, see where we're at, see what's available to us, and then maybe we can trade back in. Okay. So, interesting. We have got at wide receiver, you've got Jermaine Burton, Jalen Polk, Xavier Leggett, right? Maybe he's there at 60. We'll see. Potentially. Interior offensive line, you got Zach Frazier, a center out of West Virginia. Definitely not a bad pick there. At defensive line, defensive interior, you've got Braden Fisk. Definitely an option. Xavier Worthy is still available. Xavier Worthy's definitely an option there. We could go Braden Fisk here at 47 and then link back with Xavier Leggett or Xavier Worthy at 60. I think that's definitely an option. And let's take a look and see what safeties are available right now. Javon Bullard, Jaden Hicks. Javon Bullard's not a bad pick here at 47. Safety out of Georgia. He was the safety under our new defensive backs coach, Jaleel Adai. I think potentially you could trade up to get to Xavier Leggett. I think that's an option. I think Fisk is a really nice pick right here in terms of fulfilling a need. But obviously he's not going to be an immediate starter. But in that second round, again, you added that second pick, so that's not bad. I think Leggett, if we trade back up, we could get Leggett there. I worry if he's going to fall. Maybe you just take Leggett and hope for the best at 60. You guys in on Leggett? We take Leggett at 47 and call it a day? I think that's potentially the move. I really like that option. Let's see. Braden Fisk is 24 years old. He's not almost 30. Come on, bro. Come on. Okay. Take Leggett. We're going to go ahead and take Leggett here. I think that's a good move. And let's pause it real quick. We are at 53. Maybe we can get up to 53. Do we wait to 60? Because Braden Fisk is still available. Do we wait these few picks? I think the Browns probably would take him here. I think the Browns are the one worry spot. Can we get up to 53? Maybe trade? No, they're definitely not going to. Maybe 60? 128? Or 60, 133? What do you guys think? Do we trade from 60 to 53? Give him 133, and then we could go ahead and get Braden Fisk at this? Or we just wait to 60 and see what happens? Because right now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 picks. I do not think we're going to take 13 players, but let's go ahead and we'll wait it out. We'll wait to 60 and see what happens. Wait. Okay. I like it. We'll go ahead and wait till 60. Oh, Braden Fisk went at 58 to the Packers. Man, that's an unfortunate blow right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got. For defensive interior, we have got Brandon Dorless, Tavondre Sweat. Dwayne Carter, we can get in a little bit. I think that's a good option. I think it's a really nice option. Let's take a look at safety and see what we have available. Javon Bullard is still available. Do we wait? Do we take? I think we take Javon Bullard right here. Or do we wait to Cam Kitchens a little bit later, maybe at 70? I think that's not a bad option. Let's see what defensive ends we have available to us at this moment. Adisa Isaac, man, sticking out like a sore thumb. I think Adisa Isaac might be not a bad option at this moment. I'm honestly quite surprised he's even still available. So you got Adisa Isaac. Let's see what cornerbacks. Kyrie Jackson. He's fine. Let's take a look at offensive tackles. Blake Fisher. He's available. Let's take what interior offensive lineman we have available. Christian Haynes, guard. That would definitely be an interesting option right there. Christian Haynes, a very, very talented interior offensive lineman out of UConn. I think he would be definitely an interesting potential for the Bills. I think that's a nice option. We could take Haynes right there and then circle back and maybe get Javon Bullard. Or maybe you, like you were saying, bridge the gap, try to trade a couple of these, maybe 122, 128, 141 a later pick and try to move up and get Javon Baker later. I think wide receivers still available. I don't think the Bills are going to take 2 back-to-back receivers. Adisa Isaac's a really nice option right there at defensive end. Javon Bullard's a really nice option. I almost feel like you got to take Javon Bullard here, but man, could you potentially, let's take Bullard. You solidify your safety position right there for the long haul, right? Do we take, you tell me, guys, Bullard or Adisa Isaac? Who do you guys think? Whatever you guys think, I'm 100% on board with. If you guys think we take Bullard the safety, I'm cool with that. Or we take Adisa Isaac. And Michael, I can't trade down again. We have 13 picks. Brandon Bean is not going to end up with 17 picks. Adisa Isaac. We take defensive end out of PSU. PSU. Dear Lord. Penn State. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll take Adisa Isaac in this spot right here. Why is everything... I don't know what this app is doing, but it highlighted every single position for me. That's great. I really appreciate all the information. So we'll go ahead and take Adisa Isaac. I think it's a good spot. And maybe we'll be able to get Javon Bullard with that next pick. Adisa Isaac taking it right there. I think that's a nice little pickup. It's a nice little move. And here wow, look at that, folks. Look at that. We are now at pick 70, and we got Javon Bullard still available. Interesting. We got Javon Baker. Javon Baker still available. I don't think they take another receiver just because of Curtis Samuel. I think you take Xavier Legette. I think you don't take Javon Baker. To be honest, I think maybe you take a later receiver. So I think that's good. I think Haynes is a great option if he's still available. Let's say not Devontae Walker. I'm not taking him. Let's take a look. And he is gone. Haynes is unfortunately taken. He was taken just after we took Adisa Isaac, unfortunately. So I think Javon Bullard, I think, is a great move right here for the Buffalo Bills, solidifying that back end. And what I'm going to do real quick is let's, at 80, we're going to recap and see what we got available to us. So at 80, we had Renardo Green, cornerback out of Florida State, Jamari Thrash, Max Melton, Devondre Sweat, Jonah Ellis, Jaden Hicks, Kyrie Jackson, Cam Kitchens, Patrick Paul, Blake Corum. I think at this point, maybe the Buffalo Bills could trade up. Let's see what kind of options. They'd have to get really creative with some of these picks, and this team's not even going to do it. That's a big drop, 80 to 128. We might have to wait a little bit. A little bit. Let's see if we can move up to the back end of this round right here. Right there. Let's see if the Ravens would be willing to trade with us at 93. I don't think so. Oh, maybe. Okay. So we could trade 4 picks. We go from 128 to 93. Maybe jump up. I think there's a couple options here. I think that's not a bad option. And Dwayne Carter has not been taken. I think we do that. What do you guys think? Trade up to 93. We're trading 128, 141, 160. Let's see if they do it for a little bit less. Okay. Let me be creative here and see. Okay. So we could do 128, 141, 163, and 204. See if we get 228 back. We'll see. Get 93 and 228 for 128, 141, 163, and 204. Let's offer that trade. Boom. Got it. Let's see in defensive interior. And we got Dwayne Carter, ladies and gentlemen, sitting pretty for us right there. That is absolutely an option. Let's take a look at cornerback right now. See what options we have available to us for the Buffalo Bills. DJ James, Chris Abram Drain, Travis Brownlee, couple options. Interior offensive line. Christian Mahogany from Boston College is a nice pick right there. Mason McCormick, Bo Limmer. I don't think 4 picks is crazy. I mean, you're jumping quite a bit. You went from 128 to 93. That's a very large jump. 35 picks. And you have to remember, those back-end picks that we traded away weren't worth much. So if we go from 93, do you want to do that? Or do you want to see if maybe Dwayne Carter, because we still have quite a few picks. But let's go ahead. Let's take Dwayne Carter. We know he's going to be there. You don't have to worry about it. Let's do it. No risk, no harm, no foul. I don't want to worry about it. I like Christian Mahogany, but I think we're good right there. And we're really solid on that defensive line now. Truly. We got a good safety, got a good wide receiver. I think this draft is really filling out nicely for us. We're up at 133. We'll let it ride for now, and maybe we can trade some of these back-end picks, but I think we're in a good position. We are here. Oh, Cooper, baby. That's an interesting spot right there. I think that'd be nice. McKinley Jackson, a guy we've talked about. Kalen Carson. Nice little cornerback. I think the Bills would be very interested in Kalen Carson, and maybe we can get him at 144. We'll see. But I think Cooper's a good spot right there. Fill out that guard position. Let's do it. Let's take Cooper. I think that's a good spot. We'll be back up at 144, and maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll get lucky. We did. We absolutely got lucky. I think Kalen Carson didn't go. No, he did. He went right after. I apologize. That's okay. We got Josh Newton out of TCU. He's available right there for us. We got Kalen King out of Penn State. Another one available for us. Let's take a look and see what options we have in terms of needs. We still have running back. That's an interesting proposition. I don't think huge necessity at this point. Cornerback, obviously Josh Newton. Talked about that. We missed out on Kalen Carson. That was definitely a tough loss. That's okay. Got to do what you got to do. Linebacker, got Cedric Gray, Michael Barrett, J.D. Bertrand, Steel Chambers, everybody's favorite. Definitely a very fun name. What do you guys think? We took Cooper. You want to take a look at wide receiver? Let's take a look at wide receiver right now. You got Taj Washington. I think you can get him a little bit. We might be able to get him at 160, potentially. I think Taj Washington's an interesting one. We're 11 picks out, right? Not a bad option, potentially. Do we go ahead and take a corner right here, a Josh Newton? And let me, hold on one sec. I want to bring something up and take a look at Josh Newton, which, by the way, guys, want to say I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Make sure you hit a thumbs up on this video and let people know about this show, and if you like it, and sign up for Cover One Pass. Josh Newton was a 2-time team captain at TCU, a press man corner, which is interesting considering our new defensive backs coach is more geared towards press man, but he fits best in his own scheme. So versatility is definitely an interesting piece to his game right there. And 5'11", 190, so good size, good length. I think it's interesting. Not crazy speed, but I think he'd be definitely a value base right there. Is running back an option? Cornerback, wide receiver? And I know we're over an hour. I'm not too worried about it. We'll go a little long tonight. I'm not too concerned. Like the defensive back there, we don't need another running back. I agree. I think we take, what do you think, Josh Newton here, and then we follow it up and potentially get Taj Washington, or maybe we try to trade up and get to Taj Washington. Let's take Josh Newton. We'll pause it at 150. Oh no! And Taj Washington went at 149. Definitely a tough loss, but now that we're here, we'll just try to wait it out. Unfortunately, that's a burner. So we'll just have to wait till 160 at this point. Definitely a brutal loss. Let's see what wide receivers we got at this point. We got Luke McCaffrey. I'm not super interested in having to take him at this moment, but definitely an option. We got Zach Zinter, a guy that you can move around all over the place. We got Malik Mustafa. Malik Mustafa. You know what? We're going to take Malik Mustafa here. I like that. At 160, we're doing it. Taking a nice little safety. You got 2 of your safeties for the future. We are absolutely set up for the future. I need a bartender. Bartender! Moving on. Okay. We are here over at pick 189. We got Kamani Vidal, Jordan Jefferson, defensive tackle out of LSU. Let's see what defensive linemen we've got available to us at this moment. We've got Jordan Jefferson, Justin Rogers, Zion Logue, Keith Randolph, Evan Anderson. Okay, definitely some intriguing options. I don't know why this keeps doing this. I apologize, folks. This thing is goofy. It's probably my scroll wheel that keeps messing this up for me. Okay, let's take a look. And anybody that sticks out to you guys, I am cool with. We got MJ Devonshire, another very talented cornerback here. And we already took, in terms of offensive linemen, we did take, I wish it would show you. Does it show me who I've taken? I don't think so. We took Cooper Beebe. I think, to be honest with you, I don't think it'd be a bad option to take Hunter Norzad here. Hunter Norzad, center out of Penn State, a guy that you're stashing him for the future. I think that's an interesting one right there. What are you drinking, Old Fashions? No, I'm drinking Captain and Coke with a splash of lime. That is my drink. I like it. Kamani Vidal, okay. Zinter, I think will end up being a steal. It's a little bit smaller, so not a bad option. No, you haven't missed any wide receiver trains yet, Ian. You're good. There you go. Roy, do you like Norzad? You tell me what you think. I want to hear all your opinions. I am a rum man. I am an island man. I love me island rum. That is my absolute favorite. Kamani Vidal is definitely an option. Let's see what running backs we have available to us. This is a good spot for it, right? You got Frank Gore Jr., Cody Schrader, Kamani Vidal. Kamani's interesting. 5'8", 218. He's a absolute thumper. I mean, just a bruiser of a back. He's, I would say, very intriguing. Had a very nice year. 295 rushes, 1,661 yards, 14 touchdowns. I definitely think he'd be a very intriguing option. Very intriguing option. What do you guys think? Kamani Vidal? Let's go Kamani Vidal, and then we could circle back and maybe take Hunter Norzad with our next pick at 200. Let's see if we can get to... and he went again. Man, we are really swinging and missing with guys going right before we get to them. Unfortunate. So, let's see. What wide receivers do we have available to us at this point? Josh Cephas, Takorian Clark, Jordan Whittington, Zachary Franklin. Zachary Franklin's an interesting option later, a guy out of Mississippi. Kind of just a physical freak. I don't know if you need two of them, but definitely an option. Jordan Cephas, another guy that's out of UTSA. A lot of fun. Really interesting receiver there. Let's take a look and see what we have available to us. MJ Devonshire is an interesting one right here. I like MJ Devonshire as well. So let's go on. Let's finish it off with MJ Devonshire. Got two more picks, 228 and 248, and that'll round out this draft. You guys are crushing it, by the way. I truly do appreciate you guys. And I'm going to go ahead right after this draft. I will make sure I tweet the draft out. You guys can let me know what you think. Share it, and we'll have some fun. Now, let's go ahead. Maybe we'll take a couple interesting players here. Okay. We have got Dylan McMahon, center out of North Carolina. I think it's not a bad idea to take kind of a developmental 6'4", 305. He's a redshirt junior. I think that's a good idea. Take a center late. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I like it. And let's go ahead and finish off the draft. So we'll find somebody that really works for us. Maybe somebody that, is just toolsy, somebody interesting, and maybe somebody will be a lot of fun here. I know. Trey Taylor would have been a lot of fun, but you're right. We don't need another. Let's see. We got another Katano Ladapo, another really, really fun one. Trajan Jeffcoat. There's some interesting guys. You know, I almost feel like the Bills always taking a tackle late here, maybe a linebacker. There's some definite, very intriguing guys here for the Bills that kind of fit that they would just do it because it's a late guy. And I always like the Talia Tagovailoa. Maybe you take, Tua's his brother just to tee him up. Jordan McGee, linebacker out of Temple. Okay, let's take Jordan McGee, linebacker out of Temple. We'll call it a day. Lock him up right there. Guys, I love this draft. I think that was a banger of a draft here. We're going to recap real quick, see what the grade is on them, see what they thought. Overall, we got an A-. Well done, folks. Obviously, you had that trade out of the gate, traded from 28, got 47, 70, and 141, got Xavier Legette. Adisa Isaac with our second pick at 60. Javon Bullard, safety, at pick 70. Dwayne Carter, pick 93. We traded 93 and 220, or we traded 128, 141 with 63 and 204 for 93 and 228. Then we took Cooper Beebe, Josh Newton, Malik Mustafa, Kamani Vidal, MJ Devonshire, Dylan McMahon, and Jordan McGee. Absolutely. Ian gonna have to check out the rolling fork. I like this draft. I think this is an absolute killer of a draft, filling all different needs, plug and play starters all over the place. I think this is one that I think we should be proud of. I think we all killed it. Good job, guys. Well done as a team. And guys, next week we will continue on doing this stuff. Filling mock drafts each week. We'll do our team mock draft all here at Buffalo Late Night. But guys, again, I appreciate you guys tuning in this week to Buffalo Late Night. Make sure you go ahead and hit a thumbs up on this show, and make sure you share this, and make sure you subscribe to my